The movie begins by showing heaven's conditions where the gods held a lively party. When all the gods rejoiced in the middle of the party, a god who never wore shoes appeared and came late to the party. The other gods seemed annoyed with the arrival of the Barefoot Immortal, which they thought would only disrupt the festive atmosphere at the party. However, this is not the case with the Queen of Heaven, who welcomes the god in a very friendly manner and seems comfortable with the presence of the Barefoot Immortal, whom we will call Lee. Knowing that all the invited guests had arrived, the Queen of Heaven continued the event by reciting a poem she wrote herself. Suddenly, a demon appeared in the middle of the event, launching an attack and disrupting the event. The gods immediately prepared to fight the demon and protect the queen. However, they soon became desperate because the demon turned out to have quite a great power, so he came to heaven to show the queen that he deserved to be made a god, not even a demon. When the demon was caught off guard, Lee suddenly hit the demon in the face with his ultimate weapon, Ruyi, and could easily take the demon down. Seeing this, the queen then revealed that the stealth attack just now was part of the event she had prepared, where she actually just wanted to test the abilities and reactions of the gods when faced with difficult situations. The queen praised Lee because he remained calm in the face of the complicated situation that was going on until he was finally able to overcome the problem. She gave him a present and asked the gods to return to the party and have fun. After the party in heaven ended, Lee, still at the venue enjoying his drink, suddenly felt something that made him wary. He took out his weapon, Ruyi, just in case a surprise attack was launched at him. However, due to his carelessness, Ruyi slipped out of his grasp and fell to earth. Lee was panicked and confused because, according to the rules, he was not allowed to come down to earth for any reason. Shortly afterward, the gods came to Lee and bullied him physically and verbally because they felt jealous of him, who always got the queen's full attention. Lee, who could not stand it because the gods bullied him, decided to descend to earth, though he would receive an extreme punishment. Arriving on earth, Lee met a girl named Pian Pian hanging on a tall tree branch. Knowing she had difficulty getting down from the tree, he rushed to help her. After that, she thanked him for saving her and introduced herself. Lee said that he was a god and came down to earth because he wanted to find his weapon and his most valuable treasure. Not knowing what he was looking for, Pian Pian offered to take him to the village leader so that Lee could ask him directly about it. Arriving at the village, Lee and Pian Pian were surprised by the appearance of the demons who wanted to attack the village because they wanted to seize the village treasure, which was a magical object. Lee did not necessarily remain silent and helped the residents against the demons. He easily defeats the spider demon by wrapping a spider web around its body. After that, he easily defeats a demon with a scary appearance and also a demon who has a weapon in the form of a very strong body odor. After successfully defeating the demons, Lee was greeted warmly by the village leader and all the village residents, who then celebrated his success by holding a party. As an expression of gratitude, because Lee had protected the village from the attacks of the demons, the village leader asked the most beautiful girl in the village to accompany him to drink. Surprisingly, the most beautiful girl in the village turned out to be a 50-year-old woman. However, Lee still respected their sincerity and did not refuse the party that the villagers had prepared for him. Shortly afterward, Lee asked the village leader about the village treasure, which he said was a magical item. The village leader said that a few months ago, the villagers saw a flash of golden light in the sky descending the mountain. After that incident, the situation in the village became peaceful. Because of that, the village decided to protect the treasure in a cave on top of a mountain. The village leader also told him they had set many traps because the demons were trying to snatch the treasure. Lee became even more convinced that the village treasure was Ruyi, his weapon that accidentally fell to earth. He then tells the village leader that the treasure is his and intends to take it back. Everyone looked surprised when he said that, as well as the village leader, who promised to return the treasure to him. Turned out that the village leader did not intend to return the treasure to Lee and instead tied him in chains after making the god drunkenly. Lee tried to break free with his divine power, but his efforts were useless because he was force-fed alcoholic drinks that could paralyze demons, even a god. When the village leader and the residents were about to perform the ritual of summoning lightning to punish Lee, suddenly, a fire appeared, which then burned several residents' houses. Everyone panicked and rushed off to extinguish the fire, leaving him alone. Not long after, Pian Pian approached Lee and said that she would help him find the treasure as long as he promised to always protect her village from the attacks of the demons. Without thinking, he immediately agreed to her request, then she released him. Shortly afterward, Pian Pian took Lee to the mountain where the treasure was stored. The villagers, who know that Lee has run away, try to chase him. But then, the village leader told them to let Lee go to the mountain, thinking he would never get the treasure, given the many traps set there. Arriving at the mountain, Lee then used his divine power to find a trap set by the villagers, which he thought was too easy for him to avoid. However, he seemed to underestimate the villagers too much because, apparently, he was trapped in quicksand, so Pian Pian had to rush to help him. Because the trip down the mountains was quite tiring, they decided to take a break by the river. Pian Pian asked Li why he looked ordinary and didn't even wear shoes, even when he said he was a god. Hearing that, he shared that in the past, he was an ordinary human being who was often bullied because of his slightly abnormal physical condition, namely the size of his huge feet, which exceeds normal people in general. He was always alone because people thought he was weird until finally, he met a little girl named Chao who asked him to be friends. One day, when Chao was playing with Li by the river, she suddenly felt very sick because her disease had relapsed. Her parents then blamed Li for her condition, forbidding him to see their daughter. Sometime later, when Li was making a toy that he would give Chao, he suddenly felt that soon an earthquake would occur in the village. He rushed to Chao's house and immediately took the little girl to save her. However, Li was beaten by the villagers because they thought he was going to kidnap her, so they became furious and then beat him to death. Meanwhile, in heaven, the queen was deeply impressed by Li's kindness, who never even hated or held a grudge against those who bullied him and beat him to death. Because of that, the queen made him a god and changed his legs to normal. Although now his feet are normal size and he has become a god, Li is used to being barefoot, so he has earned the nickname the Barefoot Immortal. After Li told his past, they continued their journey until they finally entered a cave filled with many traps. With Li's divine power, they could easily avoid all these traps until they finally arrived at a bridge which was the only way to where the treasure was kept. Li thought that crossing the bridge was a very easy case. However, when he was about to set foot on the bridge, his body suddenly bounced because the village leader had installed a magic amulet so the demon and the gods could not cross the bridge. Knowing that Li could not cross the bridge because he was a god, Pian Pian took the initiative to remove all the amulets on the bridge so that he could cross it. Even though she slipped because the wooden steps on the bridge were very slippery, she didn't just give up and tried her best to climb back onto the bridge. After she got rid of all the talismans on the bridge, Li could finally pass it, and they could continue their journey. Arriving at the top of the mountain, Li and Pian Pian found an object that emitted a golden light. He was even more convinced that it was Ruyi, his ultimate weapon and his most valuable treasure. However, when he looked closer, the treasure was not Ruyi but a giant golden egg. At the same time, the demons arrived there and tried to seize the village treasure. Knowing that the treasure was not what he was looking for, Li looked annoyed and let the demons take the village treasure. Seeing that, Pian Pian becomes angry and disappointed because he lets the demons take the village treasure. She tried to convince him to help her take back the village treasure, but Li refused her request and then passed, so she was forced to leave alone to face the demons. The next day, the villagers arrested Li when he had just arrived at the foot of the mountain. The village leader wants to continue the ritual of summoning lightning to kill him. However, Li, immortal, is still alive despite being struck by lightning many times, so the villagers begin to believe in him as a god. The village leader and the villagers then knelt down to worship Li, who they considered a god. But not so with the old woman who had previously accompanied him for drinks, where she told him that he did not deserve to be called a god because he had sacrificed the safety of the villagers just to get his own treasure. Hearing that, Li remembered Pian Pian, who decided to reclaim the village treasure from the demons and felt guilty for her. Elsewhere, the demons seemed confused by the treasure they had managed to get. Because the village treasure was in the form of a giant golden egg, they then ordered the hen demon to incubate it so that the egg hatched. At the same time, Pian Pian managed to infiltrate the demons by posing as the cat demon. Knowing that the hen demon was incubating the giant egg to hatch, she tricked the demon, so he finally agreed to give the egg to her. However, just as Pian Pian was about to run away with the egg, the other demons discovered that she was a human, so they attacked her. When Pian Pian was about to be killed by the demons, Li appeared and immediately saved her. After Li beat up the demons, they returned to the village carrying the village treasure. The villagers seemed happy because they managed to reclaim the village treasure that had previously been stolen by the demons. Soon afterward, they then held a ritual to hatch the giant egg. Surprisingly, when the egg finally hatched, King Niao, the demon who had been defeated by Li at the party in heaven, appeared. King Niao revealed that he was tormented to be the only demon living in heaven because the gods always ostracized and bullied him. After their fight at the party, King Niao, who thought all gods were the same, tried to take revenge on Li. However, at that time, Li used Ruyi to attack him, causing King Niao to fall to earth and become a giant golden egg. The villagers who found the golden egg thought King Niao was a treasure that could protect and prosper their village, so they took good care of it. Soon afterward, King Niao dropped Li, attacked the residents, and destroyed the village. Li tried to get up to face King Niao, but his strength dropped quite drastically while on Earth, and King Niao was quite a formidable opponent. When King Niao was about to kill Li, suddenly Pian Pian appeared and protected him from the fatal attack. Li had no idea that Pian Pian was willing to sacrifice herself to save himself, who was immortal. As she was dying in his arms, Li saw the symbol of Ruyi on her forehead and instantly realized that she was the embodiment of Ruyi, the treasure he had been looking for. In the past, after Li died, Chao grew up to be a gorgeous girl. Even so, her illness was incurable, so she eventually died. Because Chao was a very devout God worshipper during her lifetime, the Queen of Heaven then gave her a choice to be reincarnated as she wished. Without thinking, she immediately asked the Queen to make her someone who always accompanies Li. However, because Li has become a god, the Queen does not allow him to be romantically involved with anyone. So, Chao eventually becomes Ruyi, Li's ultimate weapon and most valuable treasure. She then transforms herself back into Ruyi so that Li can defeat King Niao. A fierce battle took place between them until, finally, Li could defeat the demon until he lay helpless. Not long after, the Queen of Heaven arrives with the other gods, and she intends to punish Li for descending to Earth without her permission. Li, who had resigned himself to his fate, was then surprised by all the villagers who kneeled and begged the Queen to forgive him because he had saved them from the stealth attack. Because the villagers begged for Li to be forgiven, the Queen finally forgave his mistake and did not punish him. When the Queen was about to punish King Niao for all his actions, Li begged the Queen to forgive him and give the demon a chance to correct his mistakes by doing good to humans. Upon hearing that, the Queen finally forgave King Niao, who looked relieved and grateful that she was willing to spare his life. At the end of the film, Li decides to stay in the village for a while and ensure that the demons will not attack the villagers. The moral that can be learned from this movie is that if we have kindness and sincerity, good things will come to us from unexpected directions. Therefore, keep doing good to fellow human beings, even though sometimes they do the opposite to us.